The resurrection started last week, and the importance of the resurrection. And I want us to stop and just think about what is it about Jesus 2,000 years roughly after that we're still talking about. He was the only person who lived at that time. It wasn't the only that was. We're still talking about this. There were people before him who were famous. How about religious and philosophical leaders? What about Confucius? He was well before Jesus. The great Moses. In fact, I can go into any school and talk about any of those philosophers, and I don't have a problem. We have a problem. And we looked at these images that people have here, these, angel, Mary, Joseph, and over here he's suddenly on the cross. But everything that happened before, after, and in between those is largely ignored or forgotten. So why are we still talking about this guy 20 centuries later? In Romans chapter 5, we're told God demonstrates his towards us that while we were still sinners, Christ died. Sit there and blindly hope and not ever God because right here we see about atheists. When they look at the Bible, they look at the point of view God says we're worthless, we're just, but somehow saying that we are the product of a bunch of genetic mistakes and we're what Danny DeVito in the movie is called the uplifting. But I see right here that I'm worth something. Why else would God his only begotten Son to die on the cross for us? Done everything cross except ignore it. Just stomp it up. It has of a myth that some Jewish good old boys made up while they were sitting around the campfire. But it's more than that. It hinges on it. Well, until recently, set our dates. We had BC, which is what? Christ. AD. Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. Now, what is it? It's before Common Era and Common Era now. See, we can't even have G here acknowledging that he is where our dating timeline is from. Can't do that anymore. Max Lucado, in his book 6 Hours one Friday, said the cross, bottom line, is sobering. If the account is true, history hinges on it, period. If it's not true, it's history's greatest hoax. Now think about that. Isn't that basically what Paul said? He said that if in 1 Corinthians 15, that if the resurrection didn't happen, we of all people are to be most pitied. Now today, I want us to look at this with a photographer's eye. Cameras, you notice, really don't lie. They're very honest, aren't they? I know people who do not like their picture taken. How many of us have started to take someone's picture and then do something like maybe Flippy the Bird? A lot of people do that. Some might do a peace sign. Some might, stick their tongue out. Because a lot of people don't like to have their picture taken. I don't mind it so much. There's 2 times that I really don't like it. One is, of course, when I get my driver's license. The other is my passport. And I've had a few driver's licenses, and all I needed was the numbers here. It would have been a perfect mug shot. Cameras don't lie. If your hair is out of place, if your clothes are on your face, the camera's going to pick it up, isn't it? So I want us today to see it through a photographer's eye. And I want us to see if you can see yourself. I know him from somewhere. My neighbor? Okay. But just go up to God and the progress of the cross. See if you can see one of those chapters. Think about it. As we're looking at this, a little bit ago, ago. And I want us to point out, first of all, Simon of Cyrene, who was compelled to carry the cross here. I want to read it again. I just want to kind of go through it here. And coming up to Golgotha, when trying to get him to drink, because he said he was thirsty. And then they crucified him there, casting lots. I'm going to mention something about that a little bit later when we get to the soldiers that were there that day. Not only to fulfill a promise, but I say about the soldiers. This is Jesus, King of the Jews. Remember later when they came to Pilate, they told him, wait a minute, now change that to say he said he was. They didn't want to acknowledge his claims to be King of the Jews or be the Son of God. They were up to the end trying to eliminate that. And then there's the rock, one on the left, one on the right, that were crucified with him. And then the passing by, the people in the crowd, population that was there watching the crucifixion, saying that he said he was King of the Jews, let him mocking, and the absolute disrespect they were showing him, and was being brought as a hero basically. And the chief priest, well, we expect that from them. They've been his nemesis ever since. And others saying he saved himself, or healers, but let's see if he can save himself. Who trusted God, and then the robbers. So I want to look at these faces just a minute. First of all, notice the angry faces. You ever been angry? Now, there was a time when I could see myself there in the angry. These are the ones with the Pharisees. We started with the Jewish leaders who delivered Jesus up. Pilate knew it was because of mercy. He knew that there was no reason for them to do this. And that kind of explains some of the things they said and some of the things before he leads us over to be crucified. And there's more about that, but look at his faces, just filled with rage. They wanted him out of there. The scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees, they had no use for Jesus. They were just people who saw him as the usurper, as getting in their way. He's got to go. And the anger that they had to them, this was going to be their victory. This is going to be the story that we've got from this guy. It's gone. They wanted to have a book in that collection. I haven't read it yet, but it's written by a rabbi of all people and trial of Jesus. And he goes through the law, and others are not supposed to do it. Not. And there were some other procedural issues that made the trial illegal, but they don't care. It's interesting how they wanted to almost stone him for breaking the Sabbath because he healed somebody. Remember that? But here, oh no, we got to get this trial underway. What are we waiting for? And this was not a trial for justice. This is what we would call an evil. That's all there is to it. It was an illegitimate trial. This is the kind of what we would call in a world country, where verdict is pretty well a foregone conclusion. You know, this is where then to have a what's the fire squad over there for? That's where we're going to shoot you after the trial. They already knew what they were going to do. They started with their conclusion. How many want to go into a trial, that kind of situation? We already know what we're going to do. And let's not forget the crowd. Remember, just earlier, we call it the triumphal entry. They were putting the leaves down for his donkey to walk, welcoming him, and they're all real excited that he's there, and look what happened. Now the crowd's turned on because of the Jewish leaders. Remember, it was Jewish leaders. I'm always careful to emphasize that because it was the Jewish leaders that took the crowd. To them, we're small here, but defenders of this guy here, you pushing Moses aside and trying to mess with our Jewish law. When you look at this, it's as if too went through what he was doing. He was trying to grate the nerves of these leaders as much as possible, because he called him on the sign above the cross the King of the Jews. Maybe Pilate was hoping Jesus go somehow. Maybe let him and Barabbas go as things choice. They said what their preference was. And as we see later on in Acts, they realize that they had sinned. They're confirming Jesus to go to the cross. Remember, this was the price for rebellion. When someone went to the cross, a Roman citizen could not be crucified. Just slaves or those who were in a rebellion could be crucified. And if Jesus was crucified, he would die the death of a rebel, not as a king. And the Pharisees knew that, and that was important to them. And then the previous week, the crowd shouting his glory, they now want his death. My, what a difference a day makes, or 2 days makes, or 3, or whatever it was. Just a few days. And the court where Jesus is standing here in Pilate's court probably wasn't much bigger than this room. Probably held just a few hundred people. But this would have been a select group of people, carefully picked to support the case of the Pharisees. This goes back to the third world country illustration, where we're only going to present witnesses for the prosecution. We're not going to allow any witnesses that would actually help this case. We're only going to bring in these certain ones. Jesus, though, is showing them, remember on the cross he asked God to forgive them. But all around, he's just anger and hatred. And I've often wondered what really was going through the minds of those people there in the crowd that day. Are they really that angry, or with the crowd because, hey, this is what everybody's doing? Now, there are also some of those. How about you when you look at Jesus? You see, when we come together here and we take communion, just a little cracker and some grape juice, that's part of our weekly ritual. When someone first approached you about the gospel, what did you think? Well, it's all very interesting, but I just don't really have time for that right. Look at Pilate. He was rather indifferent, wasn't he? See, Pilate, the governor there, he was one, that area there was what he was put in charge of. He was there from about 26 to 36 AD, roughly. And Pilate's normal residence was Caesarea, but when there was something, special event going on in Jerusalem, typically he came to Jerusalem with extra troops to try and keep order. And Passover was definitely when you had large a big event, and so he's got to be there to keep charge and keep everything under control. Bring in extra, do it for like a presidential visit or something. Local police going to be on duty. We got to make sure the proper security. What Pilate was doing there, just to try and keep the peace. Was kind of an interesting character. He's the one man who had Jesus' life in his. A lot about him. There's a legend that he was actually born in Scotland. They say it's legend. It's not ever proven that. But what we know from him is that he was a ruthless ruler. You remember do it, and they say to him, if you let this man go, you are not Caesar's. Probably to an incident that happened not long after Pilate's pigs were offered, and it caused a riot where extra troops had to come in. And it's going to take him is what they're saying to him is, Pilate, you crossed us and won. You don't want that to happen again, do you? And something Pilate made was, as we first thought, something that he is being a ruthless governor and a military, maybe not so much political one who just did whatever he had to do to hang on to power. That's kind of interesting. I actually played Pilate once in the play. And about went out and did my work. Wikipedia, I don't remember, but I saw a list of all in film and different ways that he was portrayed. I think we know gets the point where Pilate is very frustrated. He strikes me, after the more reading I have done, he strikes me as the kind of guy, sort of like a kind of a Frank Burns type, if you remember MASH, where I should be running, but instead of like Phillips and Colonel Pike, I should be the chief of staff in the Pentagon, but I'm stuck out here in this assignment, or at least be in City of Detroit, but I'm stuck out here. CEO mad at you, ship to Greenland, or something like that. And him, this might as well be Greenland, it's just a little warmer, or be on the moon. He is from now. I've got these Jews and this guy named Jesus. Why am I stuck here? Why me? That's the way he kind of comes to me, and that's open. But that is being of him and the history of the time. That's the kind of man I see him as. That is wit's end here. And then look at the Roman soldiers. Jesus' garment. Remember, talked about love. This guy says he's king of the Jews. He's got this real nice cloak here. I want it. No, I want it. What we'll do? We got some nice cocaine. The winner gets his clothes. Isn't it? You got a dying man here, a condemned man, and you're playing, you're there for different than that. And remember, the Pilate and these soldiers here, they've gone through this before. They've done crucifixions. It's almost like a day off. And this is the illustration over here. Notice the bone pieces in here. This is, blood bones and these bone right off. They just got done beating this guy. Now they're on the cross. Now they're gambling for his clothes. Pretty pathetic, don't you think? Those faces today are different, but the emotions are the same. Mention Jesus. People get angry. Or they don't care. Or like some of these soldiers and people in the crowd, they might mock us for our beliefs. But just think about that, all that sea of faces. And like I said at the beginning, some of those people are going to go from apathetic to angry to mocking back to apathetic again. I wonder, because there were a lot of people there that day, but I don't think that was the whole population. I wondered if there weren't people going on about their business who wondered, what's going on? Oh, it's crucifixion. The Romans do that. I got to get to work. I've got this food here I've got to take to my mother. She's not doing well. I got to take her her supper. Okay, I wish these crowds would go away. I've got things to do. I've got, like we do when we're sitting out here waiting for the train to pass. We just want it out of the way so we can get on with our business. There were people there that day who did the same thing. And then what about the believers? The people in the crowds there who might have had some faith in him, like the centurion. Now, the centurion is not just somebody right out of boot camp. Centurion, it's the Latin for 100. They typically had up to 100 men, probably a platoon, maybe 2 platoons in our modern military. 100 was full strength. More than likely, he had about 70, realistically. But he's a leader. And he's carrying out these sort of things before. This isn't his first one, presumably, but he hadn't experienced one like this. In fact, there's another sort of legend that says this might be Cornelius. We don't know that for sure, but some have speculated this might be Cornelius, who later becomes a Christian later on in Acts chapter 10. But that's just, speculation. But the point being is that he is with all these soldiers. They have done other crucifixions, but this one's different. There's this guy, I don't think he did it. I don't think he's guilty of what they've accused him of. But he's on this cross anyway. He's, again, just doing his job. He doesn't get to pass guilt or innocence any more than the bailiff who takes a prisoner out of the court and takes him to the county jail or to the state prison. I'm just doing my job. You know, the judge and the jury find you guilty. I got to take you to jail. And how many other crucifixions did they see 3 hours of darkness for? You see, he heard Jesus' words of forgiveness too. You know, that's something else I've never noticed from these people we've crucified before. This guy up here said to forgive the people that just put him on the cross. I've never heard that before. I mean, you think that might have had an impact on him? This soldier understood it, that Jesus is a righteous man. Surely this was a righteous man. I'm used to being cussed at by these people that we flog and crucify. That's normal. But holding your peace and then calling out to his God to forgive these people. No, I haven't. That's different. I sometimes wonder if that didn't maybe bother his conscience. I mean, bother, where he goes home that night and he's lying there in bed, staring up at the ceiling, or maybe turning on the side and looking at the wall, thinking about this. That was a righteous man back there. You see, he was declaring Jesus to be righteous above all others. There he is lying later on. I wonder if we really should have done that. I wonder if that guy was really innocent. He was a righteous man. And he was seeing that Jesus was worthy of God's recognition and man's praise. Taking all that and still asking God to forgive. And here he's not one that we've had problems with like the other Jews. He came into town last week as a welcoming hero. What happened? And then, of course, the thief on the cross. He came to belief in Jesus on some level. Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Today you'll be with me in paradise. The one criminal is pointing out that they deserve their sentence. The other one's rebuking him. You know, hey, bring us down from here. Save us. Don't you fear God? You know, we deserve this. We got what we got. We had this coming, but not him. Lord, will you remember me when you come into your kingdom? And Jesus said, yes, this day you will be with me in paradise. Think about that conversation. Jesus came to seek and save the lost. Now think about that centurion again when he says, okay, wait a minute. This guy's rebuking Jesus. This one is saying, we deserve it. Jesus is saying, I'm going to be with you in paradise. Doesn't make sense. But Jesus had said before, I came to seek and that which is lost. We don't know anything about those two criminals, about their lives, whether they got caught or did they live a life of crime. Just look at conversation. Then these are the ones, the people who maybe don't know Jesus, but they know there's got to be something better than what I'm living. There's got to be something more than just paying a lot of taxes and going to work and then being put in the ground. Got to be something. Other people cried, they were probably cured. This guy, Jesus, why is he on the cross? All answered later. Pentecost comes around, and the first and then the disciples. Well, probably not that person, those disciples that day. They're the ones that were all in, especially Peter. And then what did Peter do? He swore an oath that he didn't know Jesus. They're all in hiding. There's another reason we can believe that that resurrection happened. They weren't expecting it. They hid it and found that Jesus him was empty and he had resurrected. His disciples are standing here. What do you think was the look on their face? And the soldiers there, and the security that day, trying to figure this out. This guy I thought was the Messiah. I thought he was going to lead us to great glory, restore the kingdom. Oh, he's on a cross. Now and the disciples at that point. Here they were of who this guy was. And just like Peter, they were the Messiah. And maybe we need to present this guy, guys. And they're in hiding, not really sure what to do next. St. Thomas, how come you mentioned doubting Peter and John? Aren't they all right now? Why does? Because really all of them are doubting right now. We see something here. We see the desire of those, and at least Peter wants to be near. He's following at a distance, but he's not right there in the inner circle. They all really have. And then the face when you got Pilate, which one do you want me to release? Now, something that maybe Pilate was trying to, and he's both of them. But they wanted Barabbas. In fact, there is a movie that was made in the 1950s. What happened to him? This talk, he became a Christian, but we don't know. And it's an interest to look at that, see how he's portrayed. Now, I think you're going to be executed for your crime, and all of a sudden you're released. Did he go away slowly and kind of what's happening here? Or he went off with the movie John Belushi years ago. We don't really know. I wonder what he thought about Jesus at that place. Did he maybe have some gratitude about it? I wonder. That could have been me. But right now, you're in the place of Barabbas. So what are you going to do with this moment in your place? Jesus gave us this day for us. He came to give us a ransom for many. This is where atheists don't understand why one man is doing. To them, it's just all the point of a human being. Think about it. That's what understanding God's righteousness. 100%. It's got to be satisfied. God cannot just let us know that violates the justice and righteousness. It's got to be paid. No, we are not for our justice and justice. Is this evidence done properly? Well, the whole case. That's not the way God works. God says justice has to be served. How am I going to do it? Oh, here's how I'll do it. Send Jesus to pay that price, live a perfect life. He'll go to the cross. So right now, you're in Barabbas' place. What's your reaction, your response to Jesus? Is it going to be just anger? What are you telling me I'm a sinner for? I would get there on my own, thank you very much. Or are you kind of apathetic about it? That was interesting. What time is the ball game start? Come on, preacher, hurry up. We got to beat the Baptist down here to eatery. Or are you looking at it more of a, that was a severe price to be paid. He went to the cross for me, and I need to make some changes in my life. Which one of those are you? Think about it. We'll stand in a minute, and if you have a need to respond, we'll give you that opportunity, or We'll talk to you privately about it, whatever the need is. Which one of those faces are you today? And if we can help you, let us know as we stand and as we sing.